With us now is Cynthia Lowen. She's producer and co-writer of Bully. Hello, Cynthia. Your reaction to the judge's ruling?
You know, I think it's very difficult because on the one hand, what the judge is saying is that Tyler Long was subject to severe, constant, ongoing harassment and bullying on the basis of a disability. And that school officials knew that this was going on and that they did not do enough to prevent it. So on the one hand, the judge is saying, acknowledging that he was the victim of severe bullying, and yet that no one was accountable to respond adequately enough to make sure that this stopped. And I think that that is really the standard that we want our schools to uphold. That if someone is being bullied and the response is not enough to make it stop, then we have to change tactics. We have to follow up. We have to make sure the kids are being protected.
I agree with that too. And when I first heard the judge's ruling, I thought, how in the world could the judge make that decision? And then I read a little further. It said that you didn't include in the documentary that he suffered from Asperger's and he was possibly diagnosed with bipolar disorder, which they say can also be linked to suicide. And it also, the judge also said that he had been in a car accident, that he wrecked his car and left a suicide note and didn't mention bullying in that. And so when I look at the documentary, there were some things that were omitted. Did you omit it for a specific reason? Because I think that that adds another layer to the case of Tyler's story.
You know, the reason why we did not include in the film that Tyler had Asperger's is that we felt that regardless of whether he had a disability, such as Asperger's,
he did not deserve to be bullied.
That does not mitigate the responsibility of schools, of our communities, to make sure that he is not being bullied and that he's protected within the educational environment. So we felt that, you know, 1 in 88 kids today is being diagnosed with autism spectrum disorders. So, you know, we don't want to say, oh, well, he's in some way different. So in that way, he was bringing the bullying on himself.
But it only speaks to the point, I think, that bullying may not have been the only cause. The school also said that every time there was a complaint about the bullying, that they dealt with it, that there was a big space between the time he was bullied and the time he committed suicide. You're right, nobody deserves to be bullied at school. I totally agree with that, but I just think it adds a whole different light to maybe what the judge was thinking.
And the judge pointed that out in saying that they had diligently investigated each reported incident.
I would say that, you know, each reported incident, that means reported incidents that were documented, that were on paper. That does not include phone calls. It also doesn't include the many, many times where kids witnessed things and didn't go to an adult, because within that environment, kids, I think, learned that the bullying that Tyler had been victim of had largely gone unpunished, that there was a sense that there was impunity, and that's a very common phenomenon. Most kids do not report when they have either been victims of bullying or when they have seen it.
Yeah, they don't even tell their parents.
Absolutely not.
Because it's a tough thing to talk real quickly because we're very tight on time. But how much responsibility do you think a school district or administration has compared to, say, the parents and the rest of the community?
You know, I think it's something that everybody has to work together on. I think that it is not just on the school's backs. I think it is up to parents to teach their kids about empathy, to teach their kids values. However, when we send our kids to school, I think we do have an expectation that they're safe when they're within the walls. We have to send our kids to school. And I think that we want kids to be safe there. And I don't think it's just parents and kids. I think educators want to create positive school climates. I think this is why we're seeing such an incredible response to the film from teachers' unions, from educators, from the National Education Association, who are saying, let's get this film in every school in America so that we can have these conversations about how do we all work together so that we don't have a tragedy like what occurred at Tyler's school, and where it's very hard to have that conversation about, look, these things are going on. We need tools. We need resources. We need help to effectively deal with this. And I think that those channels of dialogue often quickly close when you have a tragedy like this, and it makes it very hard to move forward proactively.
Well, at the very least, you certainly got the conversation going with bullying with your documentary. It's very powerful and something people need to see. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today.